oh, it's ingrained from the time they're little.
Yeah.
To teach our boys, bring on the football field, on the basketball field, okay, anywhere else,
Yeah.
sit down, be quiet, you don't do this, you don't do that, or you're gonna get in trouble. It's a very bizarre narrative that we're teaching our black boys. It's why I think, not we, the system,
Yeah.
it's why I think it's so important that we get our boys out traveling and looking around. I just watched my son just look at all these beautiful, brilliant black men and boys laughing and joking and talking and leading and teaching, and I just watched him watch them in awe.
But it's real. It's real. Because, go ahead.
It shouldn't inspire awe.
Yeah.
It should be the norm.
Hey everybody, listen, we're wrapping up another travel experience and I'm here with Kelli and Apollo and they're going to be sharing their story because anytime we have a travel adventure and I see parents bring their children, I wonder what prompts them to do it because, you know, oftentimes in our culture, our children don't get these experiences and they'll see other, you know, ethnicities, they have their children out and traveling and seeing the world and having these explorations. But when it comes to many of our children, what they know is their hood, their block, their county, their street, their city, their neighborhood. That's all they know. And anything outside of that seems to be either fearful or some sort of, you know, distant dream that, you know, you might get to at some point. But Kelli decided that she wanted to make sure Apollo had these experiences as a young age. So tell me what inspired you to do this, because so many people don't do it. And you understand, when I say many in our culture, not everybody, a lot of people do travel, but by and large, our culture is pretty much encapsulated within the borders of the United States. And so we're looking to break out of that. So what inspired you to do it?
Well, my father grew up in the Brownsville projects in Brooklyn. If anyone knows that area, it is very poverty-stricken. It is rough. You rarely get out of it alive or without being incarcerated. So it's a tough place to grow up. And he grew up without a lot of opportunities. And so his chance to do for his family was to join the military. And this was, you know, way back in the day. A lot of things weren't equal and it was rough, but it was the only chance. But the military gave him the opportunity to travel abroad, and he traveled to all over Asia, all over Europe for about a decade. And he realized how much it opened him up to see the world. And for my father, who didn't graduate from high school, he needed to go to work. He needed to help pay the bills. He was the oldest son. He had, you know, to help the family. And so he just saw opportunities that were not, by traveling, he saw not just that there were opportunities for black people all over, but he saw our worth and our value outside of the very narrow confines of the American educational system. He was really taught that we basically should just be thankful we're not slaves, and anything above that, you know, we might be asking too much.
Oh,
A
really?
little too much. You know, that's what he was taught. He was taught Christopher Columbus was a hero, and, you know, I mean, I could go on and on with all the myths he was taught. And until he explored outside of his narrow view of the world, that was when he discovered, wait a minute, half of what I've been told isn't even the truth. Or it's just this little partial truth, this little sliver. And there's a whole globe of information that is now at my fingertips. He learned to speak other languages. He learned to read French and German newspapers. I mean, he really had an opportunity that a lot of people don't get. Then he married my mom, and my mom was old school. She lived around the corner.
Okay.
Also from the same projects, and in her family, most people never got on an airplane. And there was also sort of this thing where you got your money, you spent it to look good.
Okay.
So a lot of money was spent on the right shoes and the right hair and the right nail and the right, you know, looking a certain way, putting money into the pockets of people that aren't really going to do anything to help us. Nothing wrong with looking good, but if all your money is going towards that and not towards learning and improving and growing, you're going to continue the same cycle generation after generation. And my father passed almost 10 years ago, and I said, I'm not going to let his dream die. I'm going to take my son, I'm going to do all the things that I didn't get the opportunity to do, but that my father knew in his mind was the right thing to do. He said, not only do you get to see the world and learn about other cultures, but you will learn about who we really are. because America does not want us to know our worth, our value, our brilliance, our creativity. They do not want us to know. So we have to go search it out for ourselves and uncover it for ourselves.
You know, a lot of times I'll hear, especially in the different commentaries that I'll have, where some folks don't like you to point out the fact that America does not want you to know certain things, and they believe in their core that America has our best interests and America's looking out for us and America's doing all these different things. But then I guess it kind of goes back to being in that capsule of knowledge, that if you really don't know, then it's easy to think that way.
It's easy to think that way, and I was a teacher for many years in the system that really, I would think, are you trying to break children on purpose? And I would think too, I remember doing a Black history lesson and having my first graders learn about real Black history. And they all got to choose books based on people who connected with them for some reason, whatever it was. I had a set of twins in my class, Asian twins, and they picked Venus and Serena Williams because they were sisters, and that was their favorite thing. So they learned about not just tennis though, the hard work, the ethics, the entrepreneurship that the Williams sisters do now, what the father took to get them to where they are, the sacrifices that had to be made. Every child got to pick something based a person in Black history to say, my role model is this person. Doesn't even have to look like me, but I want to be like them. Because what would it mean if children of all ethnicities say, that person is my hero? They have woolly hair and wide nose and different skin, and I want to be just like them.
And think about how we were indoctrinated.
I didn't get that. I didn't get the option of thinking I could be the president, or I didn't even really think I could be a teacher until 1 year out of my whole school year. I had a teacher, and when Miss Callison walked into my Spanish classroom, my Black teacher from Detroit with an afro and spoke Spanish like she was born in Mexico. And I said, how did you do that? She said, I traveled and I learned. You can do anything if you travel and you learn.
That's a whole part right there. You can do anything if you travel and you learn.
Yes. But what she said too is when I travel, I have to be open.
Yeah.
I can't think my Detroit way. I have to understand that way and not judge it as something less than. And so that clicked in my head because I didn't have a lot of teachers like that. I mean, I count on one hand.
So Miss Callison was the person who inspired you to go into, to even thinking that you could be a teacher.
Absolutely. And to think I could teach something other than, no offense, but I could do something other than be in the PE department because I was Black.
All right. That's real.
That's real.
That's real.
Because that's what I saw. All the teachers who were Black were in the PE department.
Yeah.
And that's great. I know we are athletic, but we are also scientists. We are also mathematicians and artists and roboticists and everything else on the list.
And you know, especially when we were coming along, you would see, of course, the gym teacher. And then I had a few Black teachers along the way. But it was always still this European-centered
very
curriculum.
You couldn't fight against it,
Yeah.
or you lose your job, or you're ostracized, or you think because the teacher has power. No, you don't. You still need your paycheck. And so I remember a couple years ago in my first grade class, I did my whole all the kids, the work was incredible. And my principal, I said, I would like to display this. And she said, well, why don't you just keep it inside your classroom? And anyone who wants to see it can come in.
Wow.
I said, we got all these display cases. We have a huge campus. This is a big private school, top private school. Like, what is that? What? I said, why? She said, because, we wouldn't want to upset or offend anyone. And this was a couple years. This wasn't, in the 50s. This was a couple years ago. Wow.
And without realizing.
3. Apollo's got it 3. Yes, he remembers that day.
Yeah. Apollo. Well, you know what? Let's talk to Apollo a little bit here, because you are in school and you're seeing a lot of things. So from your perspective, you're 13 years old. And what have you seen as far as Black history, understanding your ethnicity, and really where you feel the education system is now for you?
Well, I've had a couple experiences with that. Big one in 5th grade. We were doing this presentation, and one of my friends, who's Black, he was like, I'm not comfortable doing this. And the teacher still forced him to do it.
Don't tell them what the presentation was, what we were supposed to write about. Do you remember?
I don't remember.
They
was the journals.
Yes,
right?
They were supposed to write, they were supposed to all take the role of a colonist and write a journal about their experices.
Yes, broadcasting skills. So you know how you did that?
All right.
You're good with that.
Thank you. And write experiences about it, and and they had another assignment in the same lesson to do a paper on the pros and cons of slavery,
Oh, the pros and cons.
and to give equal weight to each.
Oh, wow. And so your friend, your classmate did not feel comfortable doing
He
that?
did not feel comfortable doing that, and he was forced to. So we took it up with the principal, and I think we also went up to the board, right?
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
You
we
gotta do
got
it.
the
You
curriculum
gotta do it.
removed. We had to fight, and we thought, how many years has this? It was a normal part of the curriculum that you were supposed to do that, and everyone was supposed to do that. What I tell people is, and I said in the meeting, I said, this isn't just for African American students. This isn't just for the black students.
Yeah.
What you're doing when you teach this is you are raising the next generation of racists.
Oh, wow.
That's what you're doing when you teach this curriculum. When you say that there is equal weight to be given to why slavery is good, economics is just not a reason. And like Apollo pointed out, he said, how could economics be better when it costs more to get a boat, take it to another country, get those people and come back? Why don't you just enslave the white people that are there?
Well, that's not how the system.
So he says, but that's not economics. So he told the teacher, why are you saying it's economics? It's not. There's no way that's cheaper.
Yeah.
Why don't you just enslave each other? Why did you even leave where you are?
See, that opens up a whole nother set of questions right there. Why not just enslave each other?
Anyway, so we have had to fight along the way, but I really believe that part of our travel experiences, the people that we meet like you and so many others who remind us that there is work to be done, it's worth doing, it is necessary to do, and we need each other to do it, because had I been the only parent by myself fighting this fight, had his friend's parent been the only parent fighting, it's hard fighting it alone.
Yes.
But when two or more are gathered,
That's right. That's right.
There's
That's
going to
right.
be power.
And that's what happened. It reminded me of a story. There was a school in the Washington metropolitan area, and their mascot was Crusaders. And they had the guy. Oh yeah. Oh, I did. I got all into the grill of the chancellor, and the chancellor was ignorant about what it meant, and I had to really fight that system in order for them to change the name.
Yep.
They didn't want to do it.
Nope.
But you had all of these black families in Prince George's County, Maryland, going to this one particular school that was, of course, the board. The money goes back to the white establishment.
Of course.
But I challenged them on it, and they changed it. But it was a fight. To your point, it takes a lot to get it done. So Apollo, with that though, what does that say to you? What as a young man, as a teenager, what does that say to you as far as your responsibility now that you've seen this?
What, like the experiences I've had?
Well, your responsibility as far as standing up for Black history and knowledge and education.
Yeah. After seeing this, there's so many things I've seen that they don't teach in school. Like how it wasn't. So at my current school, we have, or I think this was last year that this happened. Last year we had Black History Month, and they did absolutely nothing for it. They did nothing at all. And I think during Black History Month they had an assembly about like a certain week, about a different race.
Oh, they had Lunar New Year.
Or Lunar New Year, and they didn't talk at all about Black History Month.
So what do you think is your obligation now as someone who's aware of these things?
I feel like I need to take control of some of these things that happen, because it doesn't seem people at my school or even people just around the world really focus on that kind of stuff or really at all care. A bunch of people don't.
Yeah.
And how I think that everybody should be treated with equality, or but I think everybody should get what they need in order for everyone to be equal. Some people have what they need, some people don't. Some people have respect, some people don't. I feel like the people who don't have respect need more respect.
And it sounds like what you're understanding from your experience is the importance of helping people to become aware
Right.
of what's going on around them. Because like you said, a lot of people don't care because they don't know. If they really understood, then they could take it and like say, wow, let me educate you about what happened. So from your experiences, now you can take that and share with your friends, and because you'll see it more and more throughout your life.
And especially even now in the current climate, the way things are, the more Black history is getting taken away. More opportunities for us to learn, our children to learn, are getting taken away. And the fight, it's a fight. I thought growing up, I thought that fight would be over by now.
Yeah, no.
But I feel like you have to fight even harder. And I don't mean fight with your fist, I mean fight with your brain.
Yes.
With knowledge. And when you are armed with information, data is undeniable.
Yeah.
And that then they can understand, and they're shocked when they have it, because half of them don't know.
Yeah.
The people in charge of this educational systems were never taught that.
Yeah.
So a lot of them have no idea.
So Apollo has a spa date. You know, that's what happens when you're 13.
That's right.
You can do your thing.
I think that as parents, we often make the mistake of relying on school to be the complete source of education for our children. And school is great, obviously. Keep your children in school. They need to understand what's going on. You know, I certainly can't teach my son algebra and calculus. I finished at about pre-algebra. But there is an importance of traveling with your child, of not waiting until they've already formed their opinions of themselves and of the world, because when you take your kids when they're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, when you start taking them young, their eyes are open in a whole different way. And as that prefrontal cortex is forming, that decision-making part of their brain, before it gets settled, you're feeding them more of the information that they need. We need this diversity of information because we just do not have it in the United States. And part of what I hope for Apollo is to see his history as an African-American man isn't just one part of Africa or two part of Africa. It's not even just Africa.
Yeah.
There is not a part of this globe that Black genius has not gifted.
That's right.
Not a part.
That's right.
I don't care if it's so white in Norway or wherever you are. So it's important for him to see our contributions across the globe, to understand he truly is limited. He truly does come from the cradle of mankind. He truly is part of the basis of humanity. And every great thing starts with his DNA.
Yeah.
He's not going to learn that at school, but I'm going to make sure his travel experiences remind him of who he was built to be.
What do you say to the parent who is, because sometimes, now one thing I've learned about our people, we do what we want to do.
We do what we want to do. We spend money where we want to spend it.
We find it, you know, but.
We find excuses?
But if we find excuses, especially when it comes to travel, I'm being mindful of my words here. We have excuses for why we can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if it comes to the latest AAU tournament, if it comes to the latest
concert,
football,
the latest, get together, whatever, different
hairstyle,
activities,
shoes, clothes,
yes.
we find it, and it doesn't matter how much it costs.
No, it doesn't. We don't think about it.
Because but I guess part of these conversations is helping people to see the value. That's not like it's an expense, it's really an investment. We'll spend all of this money on these schools with these curriculums that are largely created by people who do not look like us, that try to determine, say, this is what educates you, but how does that one curriculum embody all of what education means? It can't.
It cannot.
So what do you say to those parents who may have the desire, or they've heard you and they've been inspired by what you're saying? What do you say to them, and how would you encourage them to invest in their children when it comes to travel?
I think as a parent, my job is to make the wisest choices to help my son grow into the man he's supposed to be. And that's not tennis shoes. That's not a haircut. That's not a concert. Those things are fun. But his life is more than just fun. What I want him to have is that solid part of him that says, I know exactly who I am and where I come from. And part of me offering that to him is by having these travel experiences, by him listening to the history that he won't get to hear in the United States. And then he can go back and educate his friends, his Black, white, Asian, Latinx, everyone. It's not just to educate Black people. I think it's like health. I think of it as his emotional, spiritual, mental health. I would pay top dollar if my son had an illness to go to the best doctor to make sure he had care. I would spare no expense. This is the same. It is his emotional, spiritual, mental health. It is his well-being for the future. He is growing up in America. He may choose to move, but for right now, we live in the States where most of the people in power are white.
Yeah.
They do have no interest in seeing him succeed.
Yeah, or they're black with white,
or all skin folk and kin folk. We know that.
That's a whole new story. Right
That's
there.
a whole nother episode, right? That's the truth, though, Jay. I know that for sure. And you get shocked. You're like, really?
Yeah.
And so I understand what he is up against, and so I have to put on his full armor to protect him. And that's not just getting an education in a whitewashed curriculum. You know, I'm not saying his school isn't good. His school is good. There are lots of great things there. But that alone is not enough to give him everything he needs to succeed.
Especially as a black man in America.
Especially as a black man in America. And I said, I don't care how light you are, Apollo.
You
are black in America.
Yeah, it still can come back.
You put that hoodie on walking in the wrong neighborhood, they're not going to care about your honor roll status.
That's right.
They're not going to care about any of that. You're black. And so you have to understand what it means to traverse a world that sometimes just doesn't want you.
It doesn't want you.
The country doesn't want you.
You know something
It doesn't care
interesting?
about you.
There's something interesting that I thought about. I see a lot of programs for girls. You know, you have Black Girl Magic.
Yes.
You have Black, you know,
all the different things
for girls.
Black girls in STEM and all the different things.
But when it comes to our boys, having formerly been a black boy in America, there are a lot. They do have some programs, but if you look at the amount of programs for girls compared to boys, there's a disparity in that. And I realize that even being an adult man, I see the impact as far as men are concerned. Even when you see ladies, you know, this women's empowerment, women, you know, but when it comes to the men, it's like that same pattern that started when we were boys, outside of sports. Outside of, you know, the sports oriented, put them boys out there.
Right.
But when it comes to some of the other things, I noticed that's missing.
It is.
What I would hope to do is inspire a movement for, of course, girls, of course, but boys in particular, where they travel to, where they get these same experiences that I see, so that when they get older, it's like, hey, you know, you travel, you see the ladies all together, but then the fellas are at home, still in the cave, in the man cave, still trying
to go,
figuring it out. I don't know if I want to go travel over there. They're gonna make me take all these shots, and they're gonna make me do this, that, and the other. That kind of reminded me of what we talked about earlier, also about the fear that so many of us have. But what you're doing with Apollo is breaking that down. But what do you think we can do for these boys in our community? I kind of circle back to that. These boys in our community, and how can we inspire that? The same thing that is given for the girls, what can we do for these boys?
I think we have to help our parents understand how much our young black boys need it. And I'll give just a quick small example. When I was teaching, I noticed something about the way report cards are written. You know, they'll write comments in the report cards. And I did an unofficial survey with some of my white teacher friends who were, you know, I was close to, and I compared the way they wrote the narrative for white children, white boys, white girls, black boys, and black girls. Could be the same exact experiences that each were having, but I watched the words for black boys be so different. The words were, they would say things like, you know, we have to get him to be less aggressive. We have to everything was about taming. That's how I felt. It was like you were like trying to tame these black boys. And I'm like, he's not doing anything different than that blonde boy. But the blonde boy gets called active.
Oh. Whoa.
And the black boy gets called aggressive. And I started comparing. I feel like this needs to be a whole research done on and I was like, oh, it's ingrained from the time they're little to teach our boys. Bring on the football field, on the basketball field, okay, anywhere else, sit down, be quiet, you don't do this, you don't do that, or you're gonna get in trouble. It's a very bizarre narrative that we're teaching our black boys. It's why I think, not we, the system, it's why I think it's so important that we get our boys out traveling and looking around. I just watched my son just look at all these beautiful, brilliant black men and boys laughing and joking and talking and leading and teaching, and I just watched him watch them in awe.
But it's real. It's real. Because Go ahead.
It shouldn't inspire awe.
Yeah.
It should be the norm.
It should be the norm.
It shouldn't be special. It should be what he has every day.
But it's people like you who are fighting for it. And it's people, you know, when you're fighting by bringing him, you're fighting by investing in him. And even what your words are saying right now, it will inspire another parent to say, you know what, I'm not buying another pair of shoes. We're gonna save and do what we need to do. We're gonna go travel. We're gonna go have these experiences and not allow because sometimes what'll happen is with our boys, I'm just saying that, I'm speaking generally, but really, when I think about the amount of time, like the video games, and I mean, I'm not anti-video game at all, but what I'm saying is that the amount of time that's invested in to the video games, and then we wonder, well, why? How come they lack motivation? How come they don't want to get out here and do anything? Well, because they've been lulled to sleep.
Right.
If you don't have to get out here and learn, or if you're not given the exposure, and your exposure is a 15 by 15 room that has a screen, and you can sit there and mindlessly play games all day.
Right.
And I'm not anti-video game, but I'm just saying that there's more to the world than a video game. As you can tell, that, you know, it resonates with me because I see this. You know, having run a summer camp for 12 years, one of the things I was adamant about was challenging the boys. And when you challenge them and you get them outside of that mentality, if something happens,
it's transformative.
Something happens, and you begin to understand why these boys are systemically and systematically being suppressed.
Yes.
Because it's like oppressed and suppressed. Everything that's happening to keep them down.
Yep.
Because if they discover who they are.
That's the key. And if you think that people in power don't know that, think again.
Of course, because they spend trillions of dollars in psychoanalysis and understanding
to anesthetize
culture.
us. Yes.
But we become the ones who refuel it within our culture.
Right.
We're the ones, because you'll never see, I mean, not say never, like in our Black community organizations, you won't typically see white faces, but you'll see the mindset coming through those who look like us to say, this is how you succeed. If you don't do it like this system, then you won't succeed. But what about that child that's, you know, they're artsy, they like to do it differently. But no, you're not smart.
Say there's no place for them.
Yeah.
Because you have to conform this way.
You have to conform, but then if you go over to the other side of town, where they're able to explore
and they have the progressive schools, and they're open-minded, and, you know, it's find your path.
Do whatever you want to do, you know, and they're starting to incorporate some of that into our communities now, but we're playing catch up. And that's why I'm unapologetic with saying it is what it is. And I will not step back, I will not shrink back and, oh, well, you know, we need to, I will always stand up and tell what I know, having been a Black boy in America and knowing what it's like to grow up without without that type of support. And I went to some of the best schools. I went to private schools, best, when I say best, meaning
they say it's the best, right?
I went to public school. I had a very interesting elementary and high school educational experience. And so I saw how both sides work. And so now it really inspires me now to say, hey, wait a minute. Even in those places, although some people were spending tens of thousands of dollars per year to send their child there, they, even those children to this day still don't get what you're giving Apollo. Yeah. You know, so that's what I think is important. So anything else you want to share? Because I know.
I just, I was very inspired by this trip. It was phenomenal. Originally, Apollo said he wasn't coming.
I remember when he said that, yeah.
He did, when I asked him. And you know why he said it? Because we're taught in America, Africa.
Yeah.
Or maybe if you go, you know, you might try to go and just go on safari for a couple days and come back. You don't want to really be in Africa, though. Just see some animals and then come home.
Right.
But don't go learn anything. Don't go really explore. Don't go meet with the local people. Don't go learn any history. And I am grateful that whatever I'm doing in the home, however I'm leading, made him change his mind. I didn't try to convince him, but the way he sees me behave, the way he sees that it's important to me, the way he sees me grow and change as a result of travel, it made him come back 2 months later and say, Mama, is the option for the Africa trip still open? I said, yes, it will always be open. And I'm so grateful. It's that we've traveled a lot. We've traveled all over the world. We will continue traveling, but this is our first time on the African continent.
Really?
And it's the first time in all our travels. Apollo yesterday said, I'm not ready to go home yet. I said, really? He goes, no, there's so much more I'm supposed to do here. I said, well, it's our first of many trips. This was just the appetizer.
Get you going.
He said, okay. And he started thinking about where he wants to go next. And I said, he's starting high school. And I said, I was talking to him about school shopping. You know, what he wants to get for school. And he was like, oh, just get me whatever. It doesn't matter. We got to save up for our next trip to Africa. And I'm very grateful that that is his mindset. That's why I say don't wait until they're 25, 30, whatever you're going to. We'll do it now while their minds are still forming, because you can help them form it in the right way, where they're prioritizing their money in the right places, where he sees the way he wants to live his life, how he wants to give back and move forward, and how he got that here. And truly, all I can tell parents is you will never, never regret that hairdo that you didn't get, or that concert that you didn't go to. Y'all listen to the music anyway. You're not gonna regret those sneakers you didn't buy, or whatever thing you think is so important.
Yeah.
You will regret not traveling with your children. And if you have Black children, you must bring them home to Africa.
Well, you said it perfectly. And so that we leave it right there. So Kelli, I thank you for bringing Apollo. I thank you for coming, and look forward to seeing you all in the future. And I'm gonna follow Apollo and what's going on with him as he grows into manhood, and just know that we're here any way we can support.
Yes, thank you. I
Let us
appreciate
know.
it. It's transformative for mom and son, and already bragging about it back home, and can't wait to see whoever's watching on the next trip, because we will be on many.
There you go. All right, everybody, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, share. Make sure that you share this, because this is a very, very important interview. For someone out there right now, you are facing making decisions. You know, maybe you are a parent or your parents, and you're trying to decide which direction to take your children in. And this is a pivotal moment. You heard something today. What we're encouraging you to do, just like Kelli said, do it now. Don't put it off. Sometimes we're thinking down the line, they'll get it when they get it. There's no time better than the present to start preparing and taking the necessary steps, because they're only this age one time. And if anybody knows, they grow up so quickly, and before you know it, they're grown and gone and living their life. And so let's create these memories, so when they look back, they can say, or they can have a different story than what we may have had, or they can build on the stories that we have. So, okay, again, until next time, take care, be safe.
Open up your eyes and see all the fun and mystery. Take an African adventure with Darren and Destiny. From the mountains to the shore, so many things to explore. Take an African adventure with Darren and Destiny.
The Adventures of Darren and Destiny. And Darren and Destiny are twin brother and sister, and you go on their adventures throughout the African diaspora, meaning so African diaspora destinations, primarily focused in Africa, but we go to South America, we're gonna go to the Caribbean. Their first book is going to take you to Ghana, and then we're gonna go on a safari, and from there we're gonna go to Ethiopia, and then we go to Salvador, Brazil. And what the goal is to be able to inspire curiosity in the continent of Africa, in our children from a very young age, and to really tell a more accurate story. Most of our children are exposed to negative images, late night infomercials about how bad things are, everybody's sick, everybody's poor, everyone's uneducated, but that's simply not true. So what Darren and Destiny and their family do is they go to different African destinations. They are learning about these different places. You're beginning to see positive images, but still telling the truth. I mean, that's the important thing, to tell the truth about some of the things that have occurred. But it's all done on our children's level, so they begin to understand it. And it begins to pique their curiosity. They begin to learn more. And hopefully one day they will want to explore and visit the continent of Africa and its many countries. There's just so much that Darren and Destiny are able to do, and as they're doing it, it's like they begin to open the minds of a new generation, and they don't get bombarded and indoctrinated with negativity. They're actually able to see positivity and inspiring images and messages about the African diaspora, as well as those who are still indigenous to the continent of Africa, and they begin to learn more and just see things differently. So I'm excited about introducing the adventures of Darren and Destiny.